All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted to invite and bring international guests to Helsinki. Then the city is at its best, like today. On the other hand, our potential audience has to choose whether to sit inside in another seminar or to enjoy the warm spring. After a long and dark and cold winter, it is not such an easy choice, but I think there is still time for a few seminars before the holiday season in Finland really starts. So thank you all for coming to share this afternoon with us, devoting your precious time to our afternoon session. I wish you all very warmly welcome. Kalevi Sorsa Foundation is delighted to continue its cooperation with our European fellows that form an intellectual network across the continent around the Brussels-based think tank Foundation for European Progressive Studies, FEPS. Today, our theme, our topic, we are focusing on feminist approaches to economic policy. I think that nowadays it's pretty hard to imagine anybody who claims to be a progressive not being one kind of a feminist or another. Still, the claim remains all too often just a slogan. In order to gain credibility, we do have to take steps further and ask, what does feminism mean in different policy areas? How do we recognize the gender perspective? And what kind of action it requires us to take? We already have some ground rules that in all the reforms and policy initiatives, the government, the city councils, the companies, and so forth, they should evaluate the ethical consequences of those policies they are making and leading. For example, the ecological impact for the environment. I think this applies in principle also to gender issues and perspectives, but all too often just in principle. I think that this is especially true when we consider the hard truths of economics and economic policy that are still heavily gender biased and male-dominated fields, at least in Finland. The past 10 years of European financial crisis provide a telling example. There has been very few commentaries and commentaries that analyze the past austerity measures and their consequences in terms of gender, or if there has been, they easily fall into the marginal. And yet we know the well-functioning welfare state is the best ally for women, both in terms of services as well as jobs. Public sector is a major employer for women. So I'm very interested to hear what kind of inputs we will hear during our afternoon together. But before we proceed to the lectures, I will invite our Slovenian guest, Mija Javornik, to take the floor and to give her introductory remarks. Ms. Javornik is a member of the executive of the Party of European Socialist Women, and the rest you can tell yourself. Thank you. Please take the floor.
The second part that you wanted to say is that I'm also a program manager at the Central Eastern European Network for Gender Issues, but I'm hereby representing FEPS, or PACE Women, as it was said. So let me just say hello, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be here with all of you today in Helsinki. And let me start by thanking Kalevi, Sorsa and FEPS for organizing this important event. And of course, thanks to all of you that have taken the time to be here today. Standing here in front of you today is particularly hard. Hard because I had to stand in big shoes. Shoes of one of my mentors, Zita Gurmei, who along and with others fought for the rights we women, and other vulnerable groups have today. Rights that have been fought by progressive social democrats who were at the forefront of setting the cornerstones of our modern democratic societies. We, or I, social democrat, were the ones who came up, our predecessors, with and implement 8 hours working day, public childcare, strong public education and healthcare system, pension benefits, parental leave regulation with high income replacement, job security and unemployment insurance, and general progressive taxation. Major features of our women's undivisible human rights, or by using Pace Women's words, my body, my rights. Rights that a lot of people today have taken for granted. Rights that my generation is slowly losing. As a young woman with almost 10 years of working experience and political involvement, I dare to say, we are done, we have to end with business as usual. At the heart of the debate today should be how we can strengthen enlightened and democratic societies. We have seen a lot of analysis on the recent financial and economic crisis, concentrating on its causes and also on the direct consequences. But I firmly believe that we, progressive, or this conference, aims higher. The analysis is not a problem. The challenge is how to forge a solution. We are facing a crisis of epic proportions. More than 65 million people have fled their homes, which is more than any time after the Second World War. Among them are more than 21 million refugees. And after the financial crisis, we are in the situation in which smugglers are targeting women who are traveling alone. They are also targeting accompanied minors. In Save the Children report in 2016, 7,900 accompanied minors came to Europe this year, which represented 15% in total. I do believe that the times of the crisis are also the times of change, or as Wallerstein put it so well, when humans can really shape their history by political and social engagement. But the direction of change will depend from political forces who will take the initiative in political battles for the hearts and the mind of the majority of the people. This is the prime time for us progressives to reframe our values. Times in which we have to stop acting as a discounted populist right. Times when we are first to realize that to the day, and I quote, parental leave scheme has kept maternity designation, failing to spur significant substitution effect, fathers observing childcare while mothers return to work earlier. Neither the state nor companies have systematically encouraged fathers to share childcare, with the majority of parents and managers still citing the perception that fathers taking longer parental leave is frowned upon or career limiting. End of quote. This is the test of our capacity for collective action. The conservative backlash dissolves the fabric of the society, but at the same time fails to protect vulnerable groups. While substantive effort has been placed on changing legislation, introducing gender machineries and ombudsmen and ombudswomen, we do not have to go far to see a live web stream propaganda against abortion on the wall of the church in the country that I'm coming from, Slovenia. Concerns with regard to women's position in the labor force has emerged and new patterns of employment discrimination common to open economies occurred. The service sector became further gender segregated. While public service sector became central employer of women, opportunities abound for men in private financial sectors. To illustrate, UNICEF found evidence of gender-biased recruitment among private employers, largely due to the perception that female employment involves higher non-wage costs because of their family responsibilities, earlier retirement benefits, and the regulation preventing pregnant women from night work and from work longer hours. Companies allegedly required women, as a condition of their employment, to sign undated contracts stating that upon pregnancy they would quit their job. Neoliberal infection of the progressive parties before and during economic and financial crisis also impacted the political space. Especially the credibility of our parties to confront the negative trends and protect the voters from them. To conclude, looking around the Central Eastern European region, looking around the world, our modern democratic societies are at a crossroads. Even though throughout history political battles were fought in the fields of class and gender, nowadays one cannot talk anymore about the indivisible human rights. Indivisible human rights have become shrunken to identity rights by the center-right, even prior to the economic and financial crisis in 2008. But in times of crisis, political leaders started to question even these identity rights, rights of migrants and refugees, especially women, minority groups, sexual and reproductive health and rights. And I would argue that each step away from indivisible human rights is presented a step forward towards tolerating conflicts around the world, towards increased social differences, and towards minimizing social impact, social power of social democracies. As said, not only from the left, but our society as a whole, we are at the crossroads, on the path, on the road, on which social democrats, progressive, should start setting up a common, social, democratic, European economic and social policies. Sorry to say, but there is none. Social models need to be updated. They have to be transformed into a concept of, let's say, and dare to say, social citizenship. It is not only fair, but it is democratic, because my future is also your future. And if not, I fear that the torch that has been passed from the social democratic predecessors to us will have to start a whole new journey all over again. Thank you.